could be a potential pick, but I feel like first pick Renekton here for 8917, he's going to be perfectly happy. You could potentially see the Sett picked up here for LGD. We've seen Xiye pilot that one really, really well, but the Ezreal has been Kramer's go-to. He loves this pick, and will be sliding that into the AD carry position.
Dagda, I want to say this is most likely looking like Shadow's Volibear as well, right? There's only been a few junglers within the region that have liked this pick in the jungle, and Shadow's been one of them. 3-0 on the pick with the 6.7 KDA. The only person to have a better score, Dagda, is Jayce on EDG, who has a 44 KDA after 4 games. Jesus
Which is just
Christ.
insane.
That is bonkers.
Yeah. I will say, though, the Volibear here could potentially be going towards Fearness. It is the Renekton counter. You build that early Bramble Vest, can work out pretty well. So I like that they're still kind of keeping that flexibility, because as you said, Shadow, fits his style with the Volibear, where he's able to play this super aggressive kind of gank heavy style. Sure. On Rogue Warrior's side, though, we're kind of getting the bruiser style here with the Rumble locked in here for IceCoke, also getting Forge going towards the Sett. So certainly a very beefy front line that wants to get close in quarters when it comes towards these fights.
And huge skirmishing potential right around those first couple of objectives. We're talking Renekton Rumble. A great setup here from the champion who has Sett in his name. So feels like Rogue Warriors going that one direction, where for LGD, Dagda, playing angles here, we've already got a LeBlanc, which is assuming it is going up against the Sett mid. So I appreciate this from Xiye, and I appreciate that LPL mid laners are starting to take more risks with their champion pool. We are starting to see more of this LeBlanc pick.
Yeah, we did see it against IG, but honestly, I think it looked a little bit suspect. It felt like Xiye sometimes kind of was like relying too heavily on the fact that he had the likes of the W to try and escape, and actually got caught out a couple of times. So I'd be curious to see how Xiye now looks. Now, not saying that Xiye can't play LeBlanc. The dude has been playing it for years, but I definitely want to see him playing a little bit of a safer style here. And honestly, I think he's going to have his work cut out for him, right? When you look towards Rogue Warriors composition, Renekton pretty tanky, Sett going to be pretty tanky, IceCoke as well going to have the shield there. So Xiye will actually struggle if to find targets, it feels like, in this game, especially if you see like the Kalista ban away, opportunity to go towards something like, say, a Senna, a Tam Kench in that bottom lane, and then you just kind of nullify Xiye's opportunities to have these fights in this game.
And add a bit of global pressure as well. I like that adaptation, Dagda. We'll see if Rogue Warriors want to solidify that bottom lane in the manner you said. On the other side, though, for LGD, they're building a poke comp. We've got Jayce, we've got Ezreal, we have a lot of range to play through, so it feels like just keeping their distance for now is going to be the way to go. But Rogue Warriors, Dagda, another thing about skirmishing, you like to dive, you like to go deep, and Kaisa, she's a great champion at diving.
Yeah, and if you're talking about the poke style that LGD can go for, we've actually seen this new LeBlanc build that started to come out. Xiye built the other day, which is the Everfrost LeBlanc build, so certainly could look to try and set up for this. You end up a little bit tankier, use that Everfrost for more lockdown, and especially for someone like the Jayce, like the Ezreal, adding in towards that poke is going to be pretty difficult for Rogue Warriors to deal with, because they've gone for this super short range composition. Now, adding the Rakan in there makes things a hell of a lot easier for Rogue Warriors. Great engage tool, sets things up wonderfully, but we'll have to see when we do get to these team fights if they can find those engages on towards LGD, or if LGD can try and play at range.
And when Chocho joined Top Esports and kind of became a support fill-in, I mean, this was his champion go-to, so I like the comfortability here for the Rogue Warriors support. I like the fact that, as you said, you know, rounding it out with the Rakan adds the engage. That's what LGD did as well with the support Leona coming through, adds a bit more of that engage, because remember, you look across the board and even the disengage potential kind of starts, ends with the Volibear, but now you have the Leona, now you have more stability. And Dagda, kind of fun comps to start us off here in a series that we expect could be bloody, because these aren't the perfectly clean teams of the LPL. These are teams that like to brawl a little bit, and brawling compositions we definitely have.
Yeah, I just want to remind anyone who is playing LPL Bingo, we did get Mark and his Leona, so you can scratch that one off, because pretty much every single time he picks this champion, it's his 9th time playing this champion, double any other support that he's actually played this split. So definitely got to see, as he talked about, like a lot of support engage coming through from that bottom lane, and that kind of feels like the go-to plan here from LGD side of things, right? You got the poke from Fearness, from Kramer on this Ezreal, even a little bit from the LeBlanc as well, as we touched on. So You then get these big engage tools to follow up when the opponents are nice and low, with Leona on the mark, or Mark and the Leona even, they're basically synonymous. And then also look at the Volibear as well coming through from Shadow. So big engage tools, whereas when we look over at Rogue Warrior's side, this is a very beefy composition, a very short range composition that wants to get in your face, find these good flanks, set up with that equalizer, and then get these engages off ASAP Rocky before LGD can poke them down.
Well, Dagda, if we're playing bingo, you can't just leave it at Mark. Right next to him, in the box adjacent, is Kramer's Ezreal, right? So we got double scratch off of that one if you're playing at home. But welcome to the Rift. LGD versus Rogue Warriors, back here for the LPL on a gruesome Friday, with some pretty gruesome matchups to be had. Let's also talk about the comp, Dagda, now that we're into Summoner's Rift, because you already mentioned it before, but I want to point out that if Kramer gets a late game on this Ezreal, even against this comp, Divine Sundra, Athena's, what am I trying to say? Sherelda's Grudge got there in the end. These are items that can actually just destroy this comp, and it feels like as Kramer, you are kind of that insurance policy if LGD fall behind or if things don't go as well towards that mid-game point.
Yeah, it's certainly like when you hit the mid game here, both teams are insanely strong, right? You got Fearness, who's going to spike off the Eclipse Manamune, Kramer, Manamune, and also his own Divine Sunder as well. You look at the opposite side, Rumble, Sett, Renekton, Kaisa even, like everyone spikes so hard off of 1 to 2 items. So I think these mid-game fights, especially around towards dragons and stuff, are going to be insanely bloody, and it's going to come down more to positioning. LGD have vision. Are they able to poke? Fantastic. They're going to be able to force back Rogue Warriors. For Rogue Warriors, are they able to find these good flank positions? Can they get teleport wards for the likes of Forge, 8917? If not, they're going to struggle to close the gap. Now, QiuQiu, when he gets that early Shurelya's, should make things a lot easier. That speed up plus the quickness to go for the engage should make it a little bit difficult for LGD, but a hell of a lot of this relies on those flanks and on QiuQiu to set up these fights properly for Rogue Warriors.
And I think looking towards those first items as well, you know, you mentioned mid-game for both these teams is going to be just as good, but those first items as well are going to create a lot of impact, especially when you're talking about Jayce, you know, even the Ezreal with Divine Thunder, especially Renekton, Rumble. There is going to be a lot going on in the first 25 minutes of this game, to say the least, as junglers kind of reverse path here, but are both spotted over wards, so full information given. And Dagda, just looking at the lane state, I want to remind both these teams that, well, especially for LGD, you need healing reduction. You're versing Sett, you're versing Renekton. There is no way in hell you should be getting through this lane without first picking the Executioner's Calling or Oblivion Orb for Xiye supply.
Yeah, I think there's a hell of a lot of, well, nullifying that healing is going to come in great, but top side here? Yeah, I was actually interested to see what the plan here was, because when I was looking at the top side, like Fearness here on the Jayce should have push in top lane, but didn't actually go for the early push to try and crash that wave. Instead, he's just kind of had it sitting there. Now, he is resetting, going to use the TP to come back to lane, but honestly, you've kind of just frozen the lane here for 8917, which may mean that Shadow has to play heavily towards his top side to try and help out. So I actually don't really agree with the way that Fearness has played this top lane thus far, although hell of a lot of poke down into 8917.
Yeah, he did walk back into the lane. Flash was burnt in the bottom right of our screen that we saw before. Teleport hasn't been used, as you rightly mentioned, Dagda, but Fearness burnt his to get back into the lane. So as we see the wave getting cleared here, it will just be a TP back for 8917, so he doesn't lose any more of the wave. Already a longsword being picked up here by Fearness up in this top side, and cloth armor is the response for 8917. So no summoners up for the top side for Rogue Warriors. And so far, IceCoke hasn't really paid too much attention towards the top side anyway. He's been through bottom, he's cleared his camps. Now sitting on a ward once again, because Shadow has been up here twice. And on his Volibear, wanting to angle for the Jayce lane. And especially solo lanes this game, right, Dagda? It's an Ezreal, Leona, boring lane, no one cares. But LeBlanc versus Renekton, Jayce versus Sett, there's a lot of volatility that Shadow can affect.
Yeah, and especially on that top side, I mean, when you got a Jayce matchup like this, the whole idea is for Jayce to shove in, try and chip away at the turret, and accelerate himself through those turret plates. And you need vision control like this that's been set up to Shadow to enable that. So I really like what Shadow's done thus far. I was just a little bit worried with IceCoke pathing up there, and with the way that we talked about Fearness not really getting this lane shoved in, it could have set up for IceCoke to go towards some sort of play up top side, but he actually never went for it. Instead, just decides to move back down towards the bottom lane. But I think IceCoke, despite the fact he's on the Rumble, I'd love to see him try and enact some sort of pressure in these lanes. You've got Forge who can set you up, hell, even 8917 can try and go for something topside as well, and just alleviate some of the pressure that you just mentioned to Hysterics is going to be coming from the LGD side.
Because he has double amp tome and he's almost level 6, and I feel like especially towards that 6 mark, we are going to be asking more of IceCoke. We know how Equalizer can really align with a lot of these solo lanes. Easy for the Renekton, easy for the Sett, especially if Fearness has no mana as he's sitting up here. I'm kind of disappointed he didn't go back and get the tier. Longsword, refillable, feels like he only had 500 gold, but still, I'd take tier and double potion any day of the week, just to be the Jayce who's stacking it up early.
It's really weird the way Fearness has played this early lane phase. Like, he didn't push, maybe thinking that Shadow would be able to go for a gang topside. It gave 8917 the freeze. He never actually got that crash, which means he wasn't able to poke and punish 8917.
Oh no, IceCoke tried to steal it. Now everyone's on top. Shadow flashes away and he's out. He heals up thanks to Triumph as well. First blood over to Mark. But LGD are not out of the woods yet. It's Mark being flashed on by Forge. Blast Cone on top, but he's taking the croc with him. As QiuQiu has a Gleaming Quill at his dispense. And Betty has to flash away over the wall. Mark's still dead. Kill goes over to Forge. But it's first blood in the dragon over to LGD.
Xiye's still looking here, though.
Shadow's weak. I'm not sure. Shadow might die, but with Sky Splitter Shield, maybe things are okay. Over the wall,
oh, Kramer
flashes as well, and Kramer walks into the croc, does some damage onto QiuQiu, and Xiye is still hungry for the kill. Onto Forge, they might turn their attention. A quick distortion, the burst damage. Mystic shots are missing every single way as the chains give it over. Xiye almost got a solo kill there, Dagda, but a kill he got.
Yeah, and I mean, look, at least you get something back for LGD, but not the cleanest play, right? They get the dragon, they get the kill, and then it all kind of goes a bit topsy-turvy with Mark falling across towards Rogue Warriors. Kill for Xiye, though. It's going to be pretty nice because this LeBlanc definitely wants to try and get herself rolling and get a little bit more of a safer time, I'll say, in that mid lane. Now, though, you can see there's the flash engage coming through from Mark. Shadow barely manages to escape away there. Triumph helping out, just keeping him nice and topped up. And then we kind of get this messiness over towards Mark where you get Mark who's been chased by 2 members. Kramer and Xiye are forcing back the Kaisa here to make sure that she can't engage either. And at this stage, though, QiuQiu and Forge, they've gone too deep. They've nowhere really to go. You're caught between a rock and a hard place, and I like that Shadow had that option to re-engage and was willing to kind of force the awkward call out of QiuQiu, where he has to grind entrance over the wall and not able to actually help out.
And now he's up in the top side looking for Fearness. Acceleration gate for QiuQiu here, but Face Breaker is a no. He just walks away, and IceCoke is even spotted up here as well. 3 top. There's full vision control, and you're setting up for the Rift Herald, which is good for Rogue Warriors. But what's going to happen in the bottom lane? Shadow's making his move, and Xiye only back to lane, so maybe not too bad here for RW. They don't really lose anything in the top side. They gain control.
Yeah, level 6 here, though, for Shadow. Could be lights out for the tower. But it looks like they are just going to back away, give Kramer that control, give him the turret plates to answer on that bottom side of the map.
Dagda, while Herald's going down, while Shadow's forcing out the AD carry, I just wanted to say one thing. I'm not sure if we're going to get a chance. Betty is contesting here on the Krugs, but passive for Shadow. Betty solar flared. He cleanses away immediately. Shadow on the run now as QiuQiu. No quickness, but has the grand entrance. I wanted to say that last play from IceCoke, I've been playing so much Sekiro. It's like that random mob, that weak guy who you know is going to die. He runs into your sword. IceCoke in the Dragon was very ambitious, so I'm glad he got a response in this game when the first play looked very abysmal. But now getting contested for his own Dragon and own jungle, excuse me. Forge, though, half health in all of an instant.
Yeah, I want to start taking a look at, like, kind of where our gold is situated, though, because looking at that top side of the map, Fearness, we kind of talked about how he's been misplaying this lane in the early stage as well. Look at the CS lead that's there for 8917. This is not the way that this matchup goes traditionally. Like, the Jayce should have full control here, so the fact that he's sitting nearly 15 CS down just kind of speaks to what Fearness hasn't been able to achieve in this lane. You look at the mid lane, though, Xiye's doing a pretty good job of beating Forge back. He's got the kills. I'm curious to see if we do get that Everfrost build from the LeBlanc, though, or if he's just going to go full burst and try and take out Betty or IceCoke in the midst of these fights.
I feel like we're going to be seeing some of them soon, though, right? Dragon coming up in a minute 15. I really hope. We've only had skirmishes so far. Xiye starting to bully Forge in the matchup. He hit 6, so he has double distortion, double sigil. Importantly enough, you know, double chains here for the Renekton, who still doesn't have the Mercury treads. Something really important in this matchup as for the Renekton. It's just such a good choice in this game overall, right? Volibear, LeBlanc, Leona Solar Flare plus Q, even Zenith played as the root duration, so feels like probably an important ticket item, not only for the mid laner, but for a couple of other people depending on what they want to go for. So Forge sitting pretty unhappily in this lane. Dagda, look at the level difference between Xiye and Forge.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that is going to come from just the ability that she has had to get involved in a bit more of these fights, but also, as we said, like, he's been pushing Forge back, he's been doing a great job of dictating the pace of this lane, but now I want to see she actually start to get out of this lane, start having impact either up towards his top side, where 8917 has been pretty extended for a lot of that laning phase, or down towards this bottom side where you can look for the dives, with Shadow being able to turn off the towers and making it easier for the LeBlanc to do her burst damage.
Because as soon as he gets that item right and he impacts a lane, the burst you talk about is going to be instantaneous. Betty's not going to be able to play the game. People like IceCoke as well, still very squishy in the game and kind of always will be. So it feels like with that one kill, the lane lead, the 20 CS that we're talking about, Xiye is going to be taking over the game as on top of Forge. He doesn't care about a turret shot. He just wants to delay the back while Shadow takes down another free objective.
Yeah, so it will be the second dragon going towards LGD, so kind of giving themselves a nice little bit of a boon here when it comes towards those dragons, especially as we look towards the items that are going to be completed for them. Divine Sunder for Kramer, Xiye going to finish his first mythic as well. There is the opportunity to keep control of this mid lane and then try and pressure down towards dragons again, but Fearness now under quite a bit of pressure. Mark here just to support.
But Mark has Solar Flare and Flash flushed away from 8917. The equalizer not good at all. IceCoke and 8917 not on the same page there. True shot barrage from Kramer. That was just in case they stayed under for a long time. Not the worst, as Jojo will get rooted up here. Double chain time, electrocute, flash away. And boy, oh boy, Dagda, that dive was pretty janky.
Yeah, that definitely could have gone better. I mean, not the best showstopper. The equalizer all over the joint. Chocho isn't even there to try and join in. They get the TPAP out of Xiye, which is great, but honestly, that was messy stuff.
Oh, yeah. Well, Herald's timing out, so IceCoke has to put it down the bottom lane. Shadow's here, but I feel like you'll still get a charge that'll go over to Betty. But in the meantime, the top lane play was deflected. LGD maintained their goal lead. And folks, I know they're lower tier teams, right? I mean, LGD, you could decipher there right now a very solid middle of the pack team. I'll get my words out eventually. But for Rogue Warriors, I mean, they're still a developmental team here in the LPL, so makes a lot of sense as Betty walks on up and gets 160 gold. Kramer just trying to do some damage after the fact, but there's no response here from LGD, so gold is still given, and Rogue Warriors still not too far behind after 13 minutes of gameplay.
Yeah, we do have our answer though for Xiye's build in the mid lane. He's going to go towards that Newton's Tempest. So Xiye definitely going to be looking to see if he can burst out Betty, potentially even Chocho, honestly, before these fights even start off. But it does mean that from at least Rogue Warriors side, you're under a lot of threat here, because when you're trying to, overly aggress forward onto LGD, trying to very quickly pull that trigger, you leave yourself pretty vulnerable for Xiye, who might be hiding off over a wall, trying to see if you can pick off your back line. So you got to be careful here as Rogue Warriors when you try and aggress forward, that you do have all your bases covered and that you're moving in towards Vision to try and jump on towards LGD. And that's kind of been the problem with Rogue Warriors, is their objective control hasn't been that good. Setting up for these fights hasn't been their strong suit. So I'm a little bit worried about how these fights are going to go if they're just all gung-ho and not keeping Vision on their sidelines.
Because Vision, you and I did talk about, and I liked how you mentioned it, especially with the poke that LGD have. I think a lot of people forget that with poke compositions, Deep Vision is so much more OP than anything else, right? That's why Zoe's really revel off of it, excuse me. People like the Jayce, the Ezreal here in this game can use it so well, so it's something that we'll keep our eyes out for and watch how LGD expand, because right now their vision's changed up towards the top side towards this next Herald. They have full vision on IceCoke on 8917, and remember, they were spotted out making the dive, burning their flashes. They may have their ulti, but their escape mechanisms are not there. So for Rogue Warriors, as they start this, it still could be dangerous.
I mean, you can still get a hell of a lot of damage that can come through from LGD, but it looks like LGD are just going to gift this instead. Going to try and just trade again these Rift Heralds. Going to go towards this bot side play, see if they can pick off the Renekton. I believe, but
yeah,
might actually
get it.
dissuade that.
Okay. God, that was close. I don't care what anyone says. That was close enough. So, second Herald does go down at the end. Rogue Warriors picking that one up. Not as valuable as the first, but still, they got the first. Forge is over the wall. Are you ready, Dagda? It's going to happen. Onto Shadow. Forge wants to make the move. Smite down, but Shadow's in trouble. Stormbringer and taking the blast, going Shadow caught. Now has to run on all fours. The Solar Flare for the disengage, though, from Mark was just grand. And Rogue Warriors come so close, but still get the Summoner and the ulti out of the bear.
Hey, I mean, that's a big win for Rogue Warriors, right? They just got Rift Herald, and they force out Shadow on that bottom side, get rid of his flash, get rid of his ult, so they're keeping their side laners safe for a little bit longer. Honestly, I think for LGD, it needed to be, okay, we are going to trade this Rift Herald for the opposite side of the map. We're going to make a play down on towards this bottom tower. She had already shoved in the wave, so I assumed LGD were going to try and crack open that tower, but instead, trying to steal away the red buff, get some deep vision, and it ends up netting a little bit of an advantage for Rogue Warriors.
They could do a little bit with it, right, when the Herald comes up. The next Dragon. 20 seconds until Mountain comes through. It's one that they need to fight for. So denying it from LGD is going to be a massive plus, considering you and I were talking about the composition. You mentioned how beefy it is in the front line, how they can play around some of these objectives too, right? And with Rumble ulti, with Renekton, Sett, there is a lot of all-in potential. So I like that Rogue Warriors are here early on the objective. It's just spawned. And for LGD, they now have to walk in a little bit blind towards the river of the third dragon.
Yeah, I don't really feel like LGD, though, unless Betty just takes half his health bar, are strong enough to try and go against this. Because for Rogue Warriors, right, you've got plenty of places that you can try and flank from. You've got 8917 you can play through mid. You've already got Renekton on this bottom side as well. So for LGD, they have to play very cautiously that they're not just being corralled in by Rogue Warriors. As it looks like actually Rogue Warriors going to back it up, trying to see if they can hold on to this mid lane tower alongside threatening this dragon.
Yeah, they've completely conceded it for now. Dragon to reset LGD river control. Remember that it's 4 mythics versus 3, and I've just noticed that IceCoke has gone for a Rocket Belt Rumble. You know, in the LPL, we still see a lot of Night Harvesters, so something that we've shifted gears a little bit. Dagger, I'm not 100% sure on how many we've seen so far. We'll look it up, but still not the actual usual, as Gore Drink has been picked up by Forge, so it is 4 mythics for 4 mythics, and we'll see now as the teleport comes in if Rogue Warriors can get nearby.
Yeah, the problem was Forge wanted to reset. I don't think giving up that pressure was enough. Now, there we go. Solar Flare.
It's just gone. But it's just gone. And even Shadow dies. If he's the only one, it won't matter. Stormbringer out. Shadow targeted and bursted down. On the back end, though, Xiye almost takes Betty with him. 8917 poked out on the back end. And for LGD, it's a 1-for-1. But they get the Dragon there now on Soul Point. Still a big win for LGD.
Yeah, and only losing 1 as well, right? Like, I can get that it's really not... Oh, Forge.
Okay, well, let's see. Xiye doesn't land the distortion. Dagda, you don't have to be concerned for now. Wait.
I think
okay.
The thing that annoyed me about this fight, though, was like, Rogue Warriors actually had a pretty good setup there, where you can look towards, okay, we've got Forge who can position on bot side, he can move up through river. We've also going to have 8917 who can look for flanks in behind. Like, they actually had some really good positioning against LGD. Plus, flashes galore, right? The 2 guys who really need, well, 3 guys honestly who really need their flashes, Chocho, Forge, and 8917, all had theirs available. You could have looked for the big team fight there, but instead, because Forge reset, it meant that he was coming in through mid. He wasn't actually able to kind of, as we say, corral or pincer LGD. And LGD are able to get away with it scot-free. So now, well, not scot-free, but now Rogue Warriors have to push in on this mid lane. We'll get a terror at least for themselves, but I think Rogue Warriors kind of missed the mark there.
Yeah, a little bit, and it goes to show you what we've been talking about with Rogue Warriors. Again, I'll use the word developmental team, but there are innate issues with how Rogue Warriors play past the early game, what we see out of some of the fights that come through. Rogue Warriors beating V5, I mean, these were one of the things we saw, you know, that inability to decide and I guess the lack of coordination. Dagda, I've had a bit of a check, though, while we see Forge and Xiye fighting, that we have only seen 1 other Rocket Belt in the 4 weeks of LPL that we've had. It came from Xiye. But apart from that, all Night Harvesters and 1 SOFM Riftmaker. So this is relatively new for the Rumble and something we really don't ever see.
Yeah, I mean, so for a lot of people, like, the build is the exact same as Night Harvester. The damage that you get off of the rockets is the same as Night Harvester. So in this kind of situation, it's a case of, okay, well, what do I value? Is it the opportunity to get more Night Harvester procs off the equalizer, or is it the catch potential that I have because the extra 10% movement speed I get from rocket bells? So in this situation, you're going, okay, IceCoke knows I need to close the gap on towards LGD. The movement speed buff plus the actual mobility innate in the item as well is going to help with that quite a lot.
I love, and I think it's just such a good overall item, right? It's something that's been great for a very long time. I haven't looked at 11-13. I don't know if it's taking nerfs, but it feels like one of those items that is a quiet achiever. So we'll watch him and see how long it takes him to get that. I want to look at the map state right now, though, Dagda, because LGD are going for a play on 8917. Not what I had in mind, but apparently this is what they wanted. IceCoke and 817 take a quick shock blast, but Fearness is able to get the turret in the end. And I wanted to look at the map state because... Stop it. Because LGD right now, Dagda, have a long lane in the bottom lane. Mid turret's gone as well for both sides. We have an Ezreal that's quite safe mid, and that's keeping up with CS, and farming away quietly. Funnily enough, another quiet achiever that is going to be big in a couple of items time, and that is going to destroy this composition, as I mentioned earlier.
Yeah, and I think what I want to see from LGD now is to try and accelerate this game, get some pressure on top side, like clear out this top lane turret, and then suddenly you've got, you know, 3 long lanes that Rogue Warriors have to try and play around. It's easier to try and get that deep vision, and it means that when we've got this Mountain Soul in a minute's time, things become a hell of a lot easier to try and create that pressure.
Well, the Mountain Soul for LGD, it's going to be an early one. It's only 22 minutes into the game, but LGD, they snagged away the first dragon when IceCoke just tried to melee bruiser it. Second one was easy after Rogue Warriors were nowhere near in the area, and third was a long, drawn-out battle. So we could have realistically had an earlier soul, but still, then the breaks here for RW moving into River now. They need vision control, Dagda, and I like what QiuQiu's trying to do, find an angle so that the dragon becomes an easier play.
Yeah, Mark kind of caught off on his own here, but Rogue Warriors able to bully him back. I'm keeping my eyes on Forge, though, who does not have TP and is a little bit far from the rest of Rogue Warriors, but LGD not really in a position to contest. So with 20 seconds left, Rogue Warriors control River, which is so crucial for the composition. But again, I need to see them fan out. I need to see these flanking angles. Otherwise, they just run the risk of getting poked out and never finding the engage.
As Mark's caught, I mean, Forge is here, ready. Remember, no stride breaker, but you've already caught up. No full commitment onto Mark. Now, nothing was used, so it's not the worst case in the world, but for Rogue Warriors, Mark was a potential target, not taken. RW now getting forced out the back of River, and Betty just took a true shot barrage, but did 1.5k damage.
Yeah, that really hurt Betty. And now, honestly, your backline for Rogue Warriors needs to play this so safe. LGD poking away. This is what we talked about. It's so difficult for Rogue Warriors to break.
Flare. Kramer, can he get in? Look in the middle. Forge is just dillying away on the dragon. 2k there. Shadow in, steals it. That was easy, but now for RW, they have to get the hell out of there because the fight's actually kaput, Dagda. And you know, this has just been sad for RW. Soul kills, and likely looks like they're going to Baron.
Yeah, it definitely will be the Baron off of that one. LGD, they swipe it from right under Rogue Warriors' nose, and they just never got the commit. Betty taken too low. QiuQiu doesn't go in with the quickness. You don't have the flash in from 8917. I think for Rogue Warriors, you had to take the fight sooner. They were just getting poked and prodded over and over again. And now IceCoke can't even get near the pit to try and steal this.
They're going to try at the very least to get there with momentum, but you're right. Nowhere nearby as IceCoke runs into melee range with his proto belt. Xiye gets burnt down, but Baron onto 5 members, and dude, Shadow again, right? Like, I don't know why at this point, but I go, oh, Shadow will steal that Dagda, no problem, it's Shadow.
Yeah, I mean, especially like just the setup that we got here. Look at the amount of damage that's going on towards Rogue Warriors. Amazing steal coming through from Shadow. Yeah, he does make it look easy. And then the follow-up fight is already done, right? They've already been taken below half HP in some circumstances with all the poke that LGD even put down. And unfortunately for Rogue Warriors, we said, hey, look, if you just stand in front of this team, LGD will hit you and hit you and hit you, and there is nothing that you will do. You need to fan out, you need to utilize these flashes, but you just never saw that amount from Rogue Warriors.
And the worst thing is, when you're behind as this composition, Dagda, I mean, you have frontline that is behind on items against armor penetration. Doesn't matter who it is, it's over the wall, yeah. Kramer running into his own melee range, but IceCoke's done the same. Snipe here from Betty. He runs into the back line, but Kramer's in the middle of his team. That was a little bit suicide-y. As Mark now facing off with a Croc and a weird man with feathers. 8917, the dude from the gym returns, is over the wall. Shadow brings the thunder, the lightning. Must have been a hard song to write as Xiye just snipes down. He has a Void Staff Dagda, and again, LGD take him off.
It has been a rough season for Birdman, but either way, the entirety of Rogue Warriors is taken out of that engagement. LGD, we'll call it the bait from Kramer. Let's just, to phrase it nicely, draw in Rogue Warriors. He ends up going down, but LGD with the TP coming in are able to finish that one off. And now you can see they spread out across all lanes. Jayce pushing topside, LeBlanc pushing in the mid lane, and even Shadow and Mark moving down towards his bottom side to put pressure on towards the bottom turret. LGD firmly in the driver's seat and starting to pick up the pace.
Well, Dagda, if you're Rogue Warriors, you put this in too hard basket, it feels like, right? The LeBlanc, the Jayce, destroy and obliterate that front line, and it's never going to slow down. We'll watch again because Kramer was in the middle of this, but I love that everyone from LGD said, don't worry, Kramer, we know you do this, we'll help.
Yeah, he still goes down though. Betty actually able to finish him off, but that Glacial Shroud helping out to keep him topped up for a little bit, and then you know, more chaos just kind of ensues here. Chocho tries to jump into the back line, but with Xiye coming across, Fearness able to escape away from the play. This is where the burst damage comes through.
Oh, the solo lane is obliterated. That was insane. They got 3 items now, by the way. Zerelda's Grudge, excuse me, actually picked up. Having a bit of struggle with words today, folks. But a Magi's as well.
Honestly, I just think Riot did that to just make it difficult for casters. That was, yeah. I looked at that the first time, I was like, what the hell am I supposed to say? I don't even know. I kind of bluffed it. I hope I'm saying it right.
Well, Mark caught out. Mark was sitting on a control ward. Maybe this was a bait. Shadow failing to ult over the walls. Fearness goes in as well, but Xiye jumps in. Over to Forge, remember, that is the Croc that he's been laning with all time long, but Xiye doesn't care. Once again, watch him on these tanks. He gets a sigil, he gets a distortion, and their health bar is kaput.
I mean, this is kind of donezo for Rogue Warriors. What has kind of been touch and go for a lot of this game, where we got to the 20-minute mark, gold fairly stable.
Okay.
Has just blown out of control.
Nice equalizer there, Betty into the backline, but where is the damage profile? Shadow runs in, the facebreaker, great. Kramer walks into a haymaker, true damage. But do you think they care? They know this one's over. There's nothing Rogue Warriors can do. An absolute stomp Dagda. And I tell you what, man, I've been able to go out thanks to isolation. But if I could, I'd do what LGD do, which is slap them with their wallets.
Yeah, it's kind of been a bit nuts at this stage. Completely closing this out. LGD will be able to pick up game number 1.
Well, bit of a showcase here. Got the worst out of the end. Oh, man. Nothing to say there from Rogue Warriors. I think the shenanigans starting at the run-in facepalm dragon from IceCoke just to try and steal it when lanes aren't winning out, to some of the fights we saw to the dive top lane. I mean, what can you say? Rogue Warriors still getting their pieces together, and this time, LGD face up against them and LGD smack them right down. I think it's important to note that for LGD, they didn't really break a sweat. Like, what do you say about that game when you watch LGD going into Rogue Warriors? Each fight was like, well, we know how to play it, and they're walking right into our win condition.
Yeah, and I think for Rogue Warriors, that was kind of the big one. Was I wanted to see a bit more out of them. Especially, I really don't think Fearness played the top lane matchup correctly. I think there was a lot of opportunity to punish there. Especially, like, just with Forge being beaten back over and over again by Xiye. Just try and get the Croc up, go for some sort of dive there. Even if you don't, like, Fearness was shoved underneath his tower all, like, for a good portion of that laning phase. IceCoke could have moved up, gone for a proper dive rather than this very, very messy one that we tried to get out of them. Yeah, it all just kind of looked sloppy from Rogue Warriors in a lot of situations, and for LGD, they just played it out. They were like, hey, look, we don't really care. Once we get towards these dragons, our mid-game team fight is better. Our understanding of how to set these up and play towards our composition is better. So we'll just poke you out and we'll just take everything in your face and then take the team fight.
I mean, that's all you have to do. And there's nothing more to analyze on this, right? It's just so simple. And LGD, this is why we've been talking about them being a good team, right? You know, the solo laners, the jungle and Shadow as well. it was a game where, yeah, you look at the gold lead and it was even, it was small, but nothing really happened. There was no snowball from Rogue Warriors. There was no skirmish, no fight. They started losing dragons, and LGD are like, yeah, have your Rift Herald. We don't care. We'll see you at the next dragon. And I don't know, Dagda. I mean, look, I don't know. This game was just a game that you go, we lost because they were better than us. And that's the truth.
Yeah, I mean, you can kind of see the misery that is the damage on your screen, right, from Rogue Warriors. And we talked about how they needed to play these fights. It was look to try and get control of these objectives, look for multiple flank angles, and try and find your opportunity to jump on towards LGD. But every single time we had these dragon fights, we got like fort resetting, means that they're all coming in from one angle. The final dragon, they all just literally plonked themselves in the pit. It's like, you literally made yourselves fish in a barrel. Like, if you had actually moved anywhere else, you would have been totally fine. If you'd actually tried to look for some of the flank angles around the back, you could have found opportunities or anything. But instead, they just sat in front of them and gave the opportunity for LGD to poke away. Shadow gets the steal. They get the fight. And from there, like, the game was done. You could see that very quick cliff that Rogue Warriors just fell off.
And I really hope that, you know, if they're going into game 2, if they're going to run the same draft, that we look more towards a proactivity of IceCoke in the early game. Hit 6, look for the dive over and over again. Feels like a comp that, you know, ran out of options as well, especially when they got poked down, as you mentioned. But for RW, it doesn't end there. It's only game 1. Let's hope they bring something to the table here against